Welcome to Hamilton, Ohio, one of the first cities to be founded by the new American nation in 1791. Here on High Street, which is one of the widest downtown boulevards in the United States, one sees Ohio's 8th largest city, holding fast to its stately urban character, and a population which in its support of public education has shown determination to defy the stereotype of cities as places where children get left behind. The city of Hamilton is the county seat of Butler County. From the grand old houses of its vintage neighborhoods, old-fashioned homemade pies of this ever-popular cafe, downtown Hamilton is an oasis of history and urban reality, surrounded by newness and growth. From the southeastern part of Butler County and the township of Westchester, which is fast overtaking Hamilton in population, income, and political influence as it evolves into one of the fastest growing suburban communities in the state, comes member of the U.S. House of Representatives John Boehner, chairman of the Education and Workforce Committee and author of the No Child Left Behind Act. Boehner sees nothing but positives coming out of the No Child Left Behind Act since its passage.
The fact is that we've seen increases in reading scores and math scores amongst children in grades 3 through 8. And so there's certainly signs that we're making progress.
We asked Congressman Boehner to explain how No Child Left Behind would make a difference in education by making every child an achiever.
You can buy good tests, you can buy cheap tests. That's up to the states. But the fact is if you've got standards that are set by the states, which we do, and you have a curriculum that matches the standards, and then you assess based on that curriculum and those standards, it's then up to the teacher to determine how to deliver that curriculum, what materials to use, what projects to use, and if it's synchronized in the right way, I think we magnify the role of the educator in the process, and we achieve much higher standards than what we've had.
But can the teachers and the educational community handle the new weight of responsibility? In Hamilton High School, where the act was signed by none other than President Bush, administrators speak hopefully, but at the same time anxiously, about No Child Left Behind's make-or-break emphasis on testing and the pressure the act has put on teachers and students to focus more and more exclusively on preparation for tests.
Well, I think something that we've had in the past in terms of tests, the 9th grade test, for example, we could look at the needs of individual students, possibly exempt students from certain testing situations, or offer alternative tests, alternative assessments in specific areas. If the teacher and the parent and the team felt best that the student could go through and take all 5 parts of the test, they would. At the same time, they said, look, this student's really strong in math, but we might have some problems in other areas. We could then work out a plan for that student. As I understand these new rules, we have 2 options. Well, one is that all students will take something, that there's no opting out. The 2 options then would be, will the student take the test with some form of accommodation and take all 5 parts, or will the student be alternately assessed and then be assessed in the areas of writing, reading, math, science, and social studies? That's a change for us because we could look at strengths of students and say, yes, let's let them do their best. And now they're really in the mix with everyone else in this test. Well, the special education students will be a subgroup. That subgroup will also help determine whether or not we meet our AYP. In that subgroup, we'll have students that will take the tests that are special education, and we'll have students under alternate assessment setting. They are going to be taking, basically, they will take the same test as everyone else. But at the same time, their IEP states that they have a handicapping condition. So in one sense, we're saying, yes, we're making allowances for this child because they have special needs. And at the other situation, I feel like we're saying, but you will take the test like everyone else. I agree wholeheartedly with the concept of we need to provide an education for every child, and we need to do whatever we can to do the best thing for them. Sometimes I'm still trying to work out all the details of how we make that fit.
I think in theory, in putting the No Child Left Behind Act together, it sounded good. Every person wants to feel that within their community or even with their children, that you are not leaving any children behind. And students are really nervous about the test. It's a high-stakes test where students aren't able to graduate if they don't pass the test. I mean, last year I had seniors, and for 4 to 5 years in the past, I've had seniors who do not graduate because they have not passed the proficiency test. And if you consider the old proficiency test as it was listed, you take it 9th grade. So by the time you're seniors, the students have taken it 8 times. So 8 times of not passing makes the individual feel very, very bad about themselves. People who are grading the test, some don't even know anything about the testing itself. So I would say there could be some errors made from the testing and the scoring of the testing, so that there's not another teacher actually scoring that test. It's just a person that they've hired. So I think there have been problems there.
In fall 2004, Cleveland Center for Community Solutions issued a report entitled "No Child Left Behind in Ohio." 2 years later, a progress report. It documents a massive number of problems encountered by teachers, administrators, and parents, not only in complying with the Act's requirements, but in even comprehending the procedures the Act requires schools to follow. The majority of school districts in our survey see it as punishment or intrusion into the daily work of public education. Although most of our surveyed school districts agree that standards and accountability are issues vital to a successful public education system, they had a difficult time finding additional positive elements of No Child Left Behind. This is in direct contrast to what the United States Department of Education continues to communicate to the public. This difference in opinion will only create more frustration at the local level and eventually at the federal level if schools and students do not make progress according to the law's timeline. It is understandable that the federal government is No Child Left Behind's most vocal supporter. At some point, however, the federal government must accept that the absence of significant positive feedback from those who are responsible for daily implementation of the law is a true barrier to raising the academic achievement of students.